Good evening, class, and welcome to today's lesson, which is actually going to be one that we're going to do two lessons today. We are going to complete lesson 5.6, which deals with converting fractions and decimals part 2. And in that lesson, we are going to provide more experience with several graphic models for renaming fractions. Not so much that, but we'll figure it out. I'll let you know here in a second. Lesson 5.7 is another fractions and decimals. This is part 3. We are going to move from using paper and pencil to using our calculator, whichever will make everybody kind of breathe a little bit easier. So let's move right along to our first couple of examples. We are going to strictly be working with fractions. And when we worked with fractions before, converting a fraction to a decimal was very easy. We used what we called easy fractions. We're converting a normal fraction to an easy fraction. So you might have an example would be something like 3/4. And I want to convert 3/4 into a decimal equivalent. The easiest way to go ahead and do that is I want to see if I can convert it into something in my tenths or hundredths as my denominator. Now I know I can't convert a 4 into 10, but I can make my 4 into 100. And the way I do that is by timesing 4 times 25. That equals 100. And what I do to the bottom of my fraction, my denominator, I must do to my numerator. So let's go ahead and times 3 by 25. And 3 times 25 is 75. So I get my new fraction that is equivalent to 3/4, which is 75 hundredths. And now we use what I call read it and write it. We read 75 hundredths and we write 75 hundredths. Remember, it has 2 places to the right of that decimal. I read the whole number, 75, and I say the place value of the last digit, 75 hundredths. A couple of more examples that were easy fractions that we looked at. We can do one that we said, I think the other day, was 2/5. And again, I want to make that into its decimal equivalent. Well, I can make 2/5 both into tenths and hundredths, so let's just do tenths. That'll be nice and easy. 5 times 2 equals 10. And what I do to my bottom number, I do to my top number. 2 times 2 is 4. So 2/5 is equivalent to 4/10. And I read that decimal 4/10, and I write that decimal 4/10. I put a line here, not really to underline the number, but just to show you where the place value goes. We said this was a very, very easy way to make fractions into decimals. Let's go ahead and erase this because I can go ahead and keep doing more, but I want to get you to another way to convert a fraction into a decimal. Sometimes we have fractions like this, 7/8. And I try, as much as I try, I can't change that 8 into a 10 by multiplying it by anything, and I can't change that 8 into 100 by multiplying. So in order to convert this fraction, 7/8, into a decimal, we do something that everybody absolutely loves. Long, can you guess what it is? That's right. Long division. The only way to convert this fraction, 7/8, into a decimal is to divide. 7 divided by 8. 7 divided by 8. And I put my decimal point here to the right of my 7. And remember when we did it before, we got to kick it up into my quotient, into my answer. And then I say 8 goes into 7 0 times. And you can multiply that. 0 times 8 is 0, but we're not going to, just to save some space. We want to be adding a 0. 8 goes into 70. How many times? Well, 8 goes into 70 8 times. 8 times 8 is going to get you 64. And now I subtract. Let's do this. 10 minus 4 is 6. We've borrowed that one, so we're good. Is 6 less than 8? Yes, it is. Because remember, we're doing, does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers? We've done that before. Everybody remembers that. So now that I've compared, I add a 0, bring it down. 8 goes into 60. How many times? 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56. And I subtract again. I'm going through my order here. And I do this and compare and borrow and bring this over, make that a 5. And 10 minus 6 is 4. Is 4 less than 8? Yes, it is. So far, so good. And now I add another 0. We'll move this over. Bring that bad boy down. And 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. And I subtract. And I have 0 as my remainder, which means I am done. So that means that my answer, when I convert 7/8 into a decimal, equals 0.875, which is read 875 thousandths. Remember, we want to read the number 875 and the place value of that last digit, 875 thousandths. So let's try and do one more, because we can go ahead and divide all day long, since I know everybody loves it. But that is probably the next best way to convert a fraction to a decimal, is by using this thing we call long division. So let's go ahead and try one more. Let's do 1/6. Now 1/6 a pretty small fraction, so we're going to go ahead and divide 1 divided by 6. And I put my decimal point here, my decimal point up there. I've kicked it up. I add my 0. 6 goes into 1 0 times. 6 goes into 10 once. And 1 times 6 is 6. And again, just so you know, I'm using these numbers, or this acronym over here, does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers? As I subtract, I get a 4. Is 4 less than 6? There's my comparing. That's my C. And now I add a 0, bring it down. 6 goes into 40 6 times. And 6 times 6 is 36. I subtract. I get a 4, because remember, we're canceling that out. I add a 0, bring it down, and I get 40. 6 goes into 40 6 times. I multiply. 36 here. Now let's subtract. 40 minus 36 is 4. Add a 0, bring it down. Who can see a pattern that we're doing? This will end up being 6, ... and it's just going to keep going 6. This is what we call a non-terminating decimal. Non-terminating decimal, or non-repeating, or a repeating decimal. The way we're going to write that is we are going to do this. We are going to say that 1/6 is equivalent to decimal point 1/6, or 16 hundredths, and I put a line over top of that 6. That line is what's called a repetan, and that repetan simply tells me that this 6 continues on and on and on and on and on. It will never end. It is non-terminating. So that thing right there tells me that the number that it's above will repeat over and over and over and over. So again, this time we're working with converting from fractions to decimals. We're not using easy fractions. That was yesterday. Today, you're going to be working on doing some division, some long division. And yes, you are going to have to work on it doing long division. So that's pretty much for today's lesson. Now, what I want to do also is talk just a little bit about converting fractions to decimals using our calculators. Once we get the practice done doing the long division, then we'll be allowed to use calculators. But you have to know how to do the long division. That's just really good practice. Basically, if we were to do this one, let's do 7/8 again. Let's do that one, since we already did it once. And I know already that 7/8 is going to equal 875 thousandths, but let's check it out on our calculator just to be sure. So this is your TI 15 calculator. What you would do, now I can't make this one turn on, but what I can do is make it activate my calculator so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So there's my calculator. We'll go ahead and move it down over here. All I'm going to do on your blue calculators or your TI 15s, you would type in 7, and then you would hit the divide button, and then you would hit 8, and then you would hit equals. It's that simple. Most of you probably already knew that. So I'm going to go ahead and do 7 divided by 8, and I get 875 thousandths, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 875 thousandths. So once we start getting more practice using doing our long division, then we will convert over here to fractions to decimals. One other thing that I wanted to show you in this unit, or in this lesson, let me I need to make a new page. So I want to insert a page, a blank page after. Is just a quick refresher on not converting, but on writing problems in prime factorization. So let's go ahead and take a look at a number like 32. Remember, when we look at prime factorization, what we're doing is making our factor trees. So I need to get two numbers together that, when multiplied, equal 32. And there's a couple that I can choose, but let's just choose, we'll say are the easiest ones. We'll do 2 and 16. So I know 2 times 16 equals 32. So is 2 a prime number? Yes, it is. So I'm going to circle that one. Then I come down here and I break down 16. Is 16 prime? No, it's not. But 16 equals 4 times 4. And our 4, is 4 a prime number? No, it isn't. I know it's not, because I can multiply two other numbers to get 4. I can do 2 and 2. 2 is a prime number, so I'm going to circle it. I'm going to go over here. 2 and 2. 2 is a prime number. I'm going to circle it. Then what I want to do is over here, I'm going to say, all right, 32 equals 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. A shorter way of writing that using exponential notation is going to be the number 2 raised to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th power. 2 to the 5th power does not mean 2 times 5. What 2 to the 5th power really means is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So I know we've had this before on tests and quizzes. I know we've had it for other homework problems. So I want to make sure you guys understand what exactly we're doing. So tomorrow, when you come into class, we are going to be working with journal page 142. And on 142, it talks about using a fraction bar. We're not going to use the fraction bar. We're actually going to do long division. So you'll calculate it here and write out the actual division problems, and I'll tell you how to do that tomorrow. And then once we do that, we work with factoring, prime factorization. And once we're done with that, there's a math box. And then we get over here to get to use our calculators to kind of talk about what you would do and how you would do it. We'll just divide using a calculator and be able to compare and let me know which is closer to certain numbers and which is further. So 2 real good lessons I think we can knock out in one day. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I can't wait to see you all tomorrow. Have a good night.